Guitars are about to get more expensive. The US just slapped a 25% tariff to Canada and Mexico for imported goods. And guess what? That includes guitars. So what does that mean for us guitar nerds? Well, in today's video, we are gonna break it down. And by the end of this video, we are gonna have a better understanding of what this means to us and what we can do about it. So let's go. Full disclosure, this is not a political video. If you are here for that, you are gonna be sorely disappointed. We're here to talk about guitars, so feel free to stick around if you are into that kind of thing. So the US is adding a 25% tariff on imported goods. What is a tariff? Well, I didn't do very well in social studies in school, but from what I understand, it's a tax on imported goods. This means that guitars, amps, pedals from Mexico and Canada will have to pay a 25% tax in order to sell them in the States. I'm Canadian, so I know a thing or two about paying too much for guitar gear already. And I'm gonna explain this later in the video. And it's just not Canada getting hit. Obviously, Mexico is gonna be affected by this, and you US consumers are gonna be hit as well. So I wanna simplify this whole thing, and we're gonna break it down country for country and how it's gonna affect that individual country. All right, let's talk about this from a Canadian perspective. How is this gonna affect Canadian consumers like myself? Well, for one, prices of gear, especially US made gear in Canada, is already super high. And the main reason for that is because our weak Canadian dollar. For those of you that don't know, one US dollar is about $1.40 Canadian. So for example, a Les Paul Standard in the States could go for about $2,500. But here in Canada, if I was to buy that same imported Les Paul, it would cost $3,500 or more because of the weak Canadian dollar, taxes, and imports. So if you add 25% on that $2,500 US Les Paul, it might cost almost $4,500 here in Canada. I know, that's insane. Now, if you're wondering, what about Canadian companies trying to sell to the US market like Seagull, Godin Guitars, or my favorites, Empress Effects? Well, these pedals would cost the manufacturer 25% more in order to sell them in the States. So it would cost the company more money, and they would have to pass those costs to the consumer in order to make a profit to stay afloat. Next, let's talk about Mexico. Now, this one really stings because I love Mexican Fender guitars, like my sick Jazzmaster. Now, as you know, the Player Series, the Vintera Series, the Classic Series are all made in Mexico. 25% tariffs, these guitars are gonna get even more expensive. Now, you're probably wondering why these guitars are made in Mexico. Well, a lot of these guitars, their parts are sourced from the US. So that means those parts are gonna be part of the tariffs and they're gonna be more expensive. And when that happens, the cost of manufacturing is gonna go up. And of course, like all brands, they have to cover their cost and they will pass those costs to the consumers. Thus, these Mexican made guitars are gonna be more expensive. I know, it sucks. These Mexican made guitars are so good. And last, let's talk about you guys, my US friends, which apparently is a majority of my audience. So thank you guys very much for watching the videos. All right, my US friends, so how does this affect you guys? Well, like us Canadians and our Mexican friends, guitars are gonna be more expensive. I think I see a pattern happening here. Obviously, imported guitars from Canada and Mexico are gonna be more expensive, 25%. But these American-made guitars like this Fender Strat, are going to be more expensive. Why? Because some of the parts are sourced from Mexico and Canada. Have you guys ever checked out our Canadian flag? Well, if you didn't know, that's a maple leaf. And guess what? US fenders use a lot of maple. Now, what about US brands that sell to Canada and Mexico? What do I think is going to happen? Well, there might be a decline in sales. See, those countries might want to support their local national brands instead of buying US made goods. That means fewer exports, fewer jobs, and maybe a price hike on American guitars to the American consumers to make up for that revenue loss. Long story short, even if your guitar is made in the US, it's still gonna get impacted, and I almost guarantee the price on that guitar will increase. So what can we do about this whole tariff situation as guitar nerds and guitar buyers? Well, I think there's three things we could do. Number one, the most obvious, we can buy used. Now, I love buying used gear. Now, obviously, the best way to do this is to do it at your local market, so Facebook Marketplace, or if Craigslist is still a thing in your market, that is the best way. You can find some awesome deals and you can find some cool gems. The second thing you could do is you can act fast right now. What do I mean by that? Well, if you've been eyeing a guitar at your local guitar store or a pedal or an amp, now's probably a good time to buy it because those prices were set before the tariffs arrived. Now, at the time of filming this, the tariffs were imposed yesterday, so that means the guitars that are stocked at your local store are a set price, and after yesterday, whatever comes to the guitar store will be impacted by these tariffs. So act now if you have a guitar that you have in mind. And number three, the last thing you could do is to support your local brands. So if you know of a local guitar builder or a local pedal builder, then support those guys because realistically, these small brands are gonna be the ones that are gonna suffer the most because of these tariffs. I'm pretty sure big brands like Fender and Gibson, they're gonna feel the pinch of these tariffs, but not as much as these local builders. So support your local builders, buy from them if you can. So yeah, support those guys. Shout out to my friends at Belvedere Guitars. I will post a link in the descriptions below for their cool guitars. They're a local Canadian brand if you are looking for a custom made guitar. Whew, I know, that was a lot. What do you think about all this? What do you think about rising prices of guitars? Leave me a comment down below and let me know what you think. If you made it to the end of the video, I appreciate you so much. Thank you for watching. I will see you guys in the next video. Peace.